Hey everybody. Little another quick little preview of another show premiering on the big streamers this weekend. Mr. and Mrs. Smith over on Amazon Prime.
Good old Daddy Bezos
Oh yeah.
dropping another big show. I think the last big show that I started and then just gave up on was The Rings of Power.
Oh, that's right.
I
That
I think I just stopped. I was like, I'm good.
I'd never made it past episode two. Obviously lavishly produced, but I just couldn't get into it. And as someone who
Oh, the
enjoyed
movies
the
are
movies, yeah.
masterpieces. Like let's not even beat around the bush
Don't know
there.
if I'd say that about the Hobbit trilogy, but there is still way better than the show. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I confess, I walked into this one a bit skeptical.
Oh, me too. I
Yeah,
first of all, I forgot that this was even coming out. And then my second question is, why would anyone care about even remaking it? If people aren't aware, there is the movie from 2005.
so 19 years ago already, which was made based on a film student's spec script. Funny note on that movie, it was, and of course, this will fuel a lot of you big dreamers out there. It was the screenwriter's thesis script for college, um, and it's best known these days because it's the movie where Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt hooked up and became a thing for the ensuing
Yep.
decade.
Brad was having an affair during the movie, so that's where part of the spice comes from. But it has a
With his
bit.
co-star, with Angelina.
Yes, yes. But it has a very particular tone, very much of its time.
I mean, I rewatched it recently, prepping for this show, and I still wouldn't call it a great movie, but
It's fun.
it's a fun piece of movie candy. Um, and we'll get more into this as we discuss the merits of this show. But watching it again, it struck me how it's an '05 movie that's also pretty much trying to be a '50s comedy.
Interesting.
This new Mr. and Mrs. Smith, though, is
Very different.
very different.
Like so different, in fact, we would make the case this is exactly what we've been talking about when we mention remakes or new adaptations. What's the point of remaking a movie or TV show if you're just going to make it the same?
Yeah. What does updating material really mean? And this one does it in a very refreshing way. It's helmed by Donald Glover, who's also the executive producer and writer, uh, very much as he did with Atlanta
Uh,
over on
he
FX.
he brought over the director. I don't know of all the episodes, but from what I understand, quite a few episodes of Atlanta to helm the pilot. And the first thing that struck me is it's very well shot, like
Looks
much
very
better
nice.
shot than I would expect for this kind of show. But also the fact that this feels like one of the first major, I don't know, TV shows or movies about the millennial experience written by older millennials. I'm a young millennial, but older millennials about their own generation.
So basically, my age bracket, and I agree. It's a very nice combination of what you expect from like a spy thriller. It's got a lot of those recognizable elements of a spy story, but in the same way, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, the movie was uh, really a metaphor for a marriage in crisis and marriage therapy, and that idea that marriage is a combo of love and war. This one uses the whole espionage angle to explore a lot of the aches and the headaches of millennial life, looking for the right job, looking for just something stable in life, and how meeting people is now very different from the kind of old romantic uh pop culture notions. The these two characters come together and this spoils nothing because it's a show. So we're just giving you a recap of the pilot. But the two spies in this show meet because they basically applied for this job that requires them to pretend to be a married couple. And it becomes a funny metaphor for how you actually get to know someone these days, how it tends to be these days by accident, as opposed to be actually seeking out a wife or husband, or you know
But it
and it's
also
really good.
captures the genuine awkwardness of essentially a blind date.
Yeah, yeah,
They don't fall in love, they don't instantly become close in the first episode.
yeah.
It's still very cold and detached, and I respect that a lot. And we also get that in the writing and, of course, the performances. It's written in a way where you get that innate feeling of like, oh, I've been in positions like this before. Obviously, not the spy stuff, although who knows? We might have a spy watching this. In which
Yeah, I
case, hey,
mean,
we need a job. So
well, funny enough, that is because the show doesn't lose that charm of these movies and shows where you still get a feeling that the houses where they get set up and the weapons they have and all the goodies that they're given for free are probably not what actual operatives get in terms of perks in the actual spy world. Well, I guess it depends what your mission is or where you're stationed, but that charm of classic spy movies and
it,
thrillers is here. Yeah.
yes,
Uh, but but then it develops into like a real nice character study and how both of them um, get to know each other through their insecurities, through their quirks, through their very kind of down to earth elements. If you notice, none of them talk about crazy spies. They don't say the stuff they say in these cliche movies, like, "Oh yeah, well, I've killed 50 people with like one shot or
they
something."
never did the thing where someone says, "Well, at least you didn't pull another Bucharest."
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Where it's like,
Remember that one time in Casablanca? I mean, there's none of that. It really feels like two millennials who are basically enduring their first day on the job, where for this generation, it's kind of funny. Everyone has dreams, but your expectations are kind of low when you go into a job because you're kind of just grateful to have a well-paying job because that's just so fleeting these days. And it's kind of funny how that's kind of the buried theme of the show.
or let's to be more clear, at least that's what it's setting up based on the first episode.
Yes,
I
yes,
believe there are 8 episodes in this season.
yes,
So we're on episode 1, which means that because we're doing this breaking it live with TV, you'll probably see us talk about the other 7.
yes.
Um, but yeah, it's also in, as I said, the performances, that kind of down to earth, but also slightly odd personalities. They both are kind of outliers. I think they even talk about that they're kind of outcasts, they're loners, they don't really, they have a hard time connecting with people.
Well, because one of the cool things the show does is, again, typical stuff you see in a spy movie is used here to say something about them as people. So there's a computer that's asking them questions that they need to answer.
Like a HAL 9000 or
Ex-
something.
exactly, or the Blade Runner
Oh,
test.
yes.
Yeah, but instead of using that to advance some kind of hokey plot, it's used to give us little tidbit, little windows into who they are. They don't want to talk to their parents. They don't mind cutting ties with their families. So we can already get a sense that the two spies are loners. Uh,
One of
you know,
them, I think, was passed up for promotion or wasn't accepted into the CIA.
oh yes, that she came close, but she didn't. But again, what's nice is the point isn't really that she didn't get into the CIA. The CIA is almost a stand-in for all of us who've applied for what could have been a really good job and didn't get it for whatever
Again,
reason.
the modern millennial and I guess a bit of Gen Z experience. Right now, I think many of us feel like getting the ideal job or security in a job. I mean, the last scene of the episode, they talk about the the mission they're on and how it turns up, and Donald Glover or Childish Gambino says, "Well, at least I have a secure job that pays well.
No,
Like I
exactly.
don't mind. It's just like I'm secure now." So the sacrifices we make or the things we'll do against people or for the wrong kinds of actors.
Oh well, yeah. Well, the idea that we're living in a time where everyone, so, most we now live in a world where everyone is apparently putting in the effort, right? Everyone does college, everyone does most people do the masters after the BA, but it's not really anymore with the ambition
Mm.
of whatever, uh seeking something greater than yourself. It's more like, okay, I need these check marks to be able to compete in the for at least something that pays more than minimum wage. And the show does a really nice job in channeling that through this idea that even espionage can become that now, where it's not even, these are not patriots, right? They're not. There's even a nice scene where Glover talks about being in Afghanistan and how he's not necessarily bragging about it. He doesn't really feel heroic about having fought in the war. It's more like just a haunting detail in his past. And so you don't get the sense that, oh, they became spies because they're out to fight Putin or
But that's
something,
the reality for a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people join the army or the different branches of the military, from my understanding, because they need to escape an abusive household.
Yeah.
They need a green card. They are homeless and, well, they need a
Well,
place to
the
live.
military is predominantly working class, right? So now,
They're, I think the American propaganda machine always has these shows where people join because they're these uber patriots who something traumatic in their
yeah.
life happened and they need to do justice by the world, and these little details in the show just go to show us that the reality of our existence in any job in the modern age, most people do these things because
Well, to
it's the
get by,
to get by.
to get by.
Exactly.
In fact, there's a great moment where, no spoilers, but there's a great action moment where, instead of over stylizing a chase, you actually feel the exhaustion of covering a whole alleyway and jumping a fence and you
Which
know
jumping the fence, it, they don't do the 1-2 jump.
yeah,
It's actually, well, even the end of the episode, no spoilers, of course, but it actually, they maybe they were that tired or they act really well, but you can feel that sense of exhaustion that we've all been there, where you can barely get a sentence out. Like your brain feels like lead, your lips are like,
well, it feels
are,
like the actual end of a long workday. It feels like the actual end of a long shift, or day at the office or whatever. And that's very refreshing to see in a show like this, especially in a season of, well, you know what, especially after a past couple of seasons of so many remakes and reboots and cynical studio attempts at attracting an audience just through sheer uh, franchise recognition. That's honestly what I thought was the deal with this show. I thought, oh, it's another case of someone who looked at what was a hit 19 or 20 years ago and decided, hey, let's just make a show out of it. But no, I mean, maybe that was the initial idea in the boardroom, but because of the way Glover has been allowed to handle the material and put it together, it's something cool. I mean, genuinely cool. If
well, it's why
yeah,
we decided to record something halfway through. I kind of said, I'm like genuinely digging this. Like I am looking forward to watching this when it releases tomorrow.
if you're and on a broader cultural sense, again, if you're between the ages of 27 and 40, you're totally gonna get this show. You're totally gonna be into it. It's gonna speak to you in a funny way. And if you're Gen Z, uh, okay, now you'll get a window into why your older brother and or sister are the way they are, or something. And what makes them tick. It's a fantastic show in that sense.
Welcome surprise for sure. As we fill up our schedule in between True Detective, Night Country, we still have previews for episodes 5 and 6.
And we've also got Tokyo Vice coming up.
Tokyo Vice, we'll
Ding
see.
ding ding, little reveal right there.
So, as you can
Yeah.
tell, a lot more TV from our little show.
Because let's be frank, what is there to go see in theaters right now? We support theaters all the way. We support movie theaters all the way. But aside from The Promised Land
Los
and Los
Colonos, Bye
Colonos,
Bye
Bye
Tiberius,
Bye
The
Tiberius,
Teacher's Lounge, 4 movies.
4 movies. Aside from that,
The Zone of Interest,
Zone of Interest. Aside from those, all the advertising is being gobbled up by Argyle, which, if you saw our previous preview,
what we think
is,
of it. And
yeah,
if you haven't, go watch our thing
go
and
give it a
then
peek,
don't go see
and
Argyle.
then don't go see it.
Or go
Exactly.
watch some of these shows. Again, we wouldn't be covering this if there wasn't something that seemed genuinely interesting.
And I can already predict this will be worth your time more than Madam Web. Sorry, Sony. I haven't seen it. We haven't seen it, but
Dakota Johnson fired. She left her talent agency after the first trailer dropped.
jeez.
So
That's all
train
you
wreck.
gotta know.
That's all you gotta know. But
Dakota, come on this show. Tell us what happened.
we have good mezcal.
We have good mezcal. We have good. We'll have spider-shaped gummies, so you can munch on your sorrows. Um, but yeah, so that's our little preview of the first episode of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Again, pleasant surprise. Please check it out. Stay tuned for upcoming previews of the rest of the new season of True Detective Night Country, uh,
Tokyo Vice.
Tokyo Vice, and we deliver. We keep promising, and we deliver. The Chronicles of Man.
That's
The
right.
big concluding chapter is coming up very
Absolutely.
soon.
We got some notes to put together. The new edition of Black Hat came out, so we got to check that out. It has new audio commentary, not by Michael Mann, but still hopefully give some insight.
Who did the audio commentary?
I forgot, but I'll send you the
Because
details
I'm wondering,
later.
like, if it wasn't Mike himself, I mean, who did the audio commentary?
I think film historians or something.
Okay, see,
so-
now I'm intrigued. What their take on Black Hat is.
Hey,
Wow,
maybe it's
wow.
my first 4K Blu-ray.
I mean, if there was ever a way to inaugurate a new TV, you got to be careful what's going to be that first purchase. I remember eons ago, back in the dawn of time, my first Blu-ray ever that I purchased was, forgive me, dear listeners, but it was back then Walmart still had the cheapo bins, the legit cheapo bins. Was an Enemy of the State. Will Smith, Tony Scott movie, Gene Hackman.
That's a good fucking movie.
That's a very good. That's
you know what?
Tony Scott
More
movie.
homework. Go watch Enemy of the State. Probably the Blu-ray on Amazon's like $5.
Yeah, but
So good recommendations. Who knows? We may reference it in our next Michael Mann episode, right?
It's actually very, very, very close to Black Hat's themes anyway. And
there we go.
And it's a movie that's only grown in relevance. I'm sure Edward Snowden has a lot to say about that. But anyway, thank you for joining us for this little preview. Make sure to follow us on all our socials.
We'll leave it down below as usual. And 2024, we got a lot. We got a lot coming. We're trying to grow, expand.
Please, and to do so, we need your likes, we need your comments, we need your views. Even hit up our letterboxes and send us your hate mail there as well. So the more you jump on board with us, the more we can expand, and the more previews we can bring you, like this one. because we'll watch the stuff that you should check out, and we'll endure the stuff that you should just avoid, like toxic waste.
That's a good tagline. We got to write that down.
T-shirt time.
T-shirt time. There we go. All right. Now we're rambling because we're too hungry.
Yeah,
So, peace.
I agree with everybody.